Media people, please, can we take that side so that we can media, that side. That's right. Go down media side. That's the thanks.
We must wait here.
The Secretary General of the
Ele protocolo,
Guys, please, no media, please, guys, please.
Are you left?
sindlule sintweni esizima shalom siyaqoba sindlule sintweni sona esinzima kodwa njalo sindlule Baba siyabonga konke okwenzileyo nalokho kunokuhlokosayo. Yebo Baba siyabonga konke okwenzileyo nalokho kunokuhlokosayo. Siyabonga Baba siyabonga konke okwenzileyo nalokho kunokuhlokosayo. Yebo siyabonga Baba siyabonga konke okwenzileyo
May we all rise. May we all rise to welcome Mahlale phansi sibambe umthetho. Can we stop singing, please? May we all rise to welcome, to receive His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa and the Mboweni family. Whilst you are all standing, may I ask the South African Police Service to lead us in the singing of the national anthem. You may be seated. Long live the fighting spirit of Tito Mboweni, long live! Long live the legacy of Tito Titus Mboweni, long live! Amandla! Matimba! Manda! My name is David Masondo. I'm one of the program directors, together with Comrade Joe Matebula. We are here to celebrate a life well lived, a legacy of our leader, our father, our friend, our comrade, our father, our uncle, and there's a number of speakers who will be helping us to speak on our behalf about this giant that we are laying to rest today. And we'd like to appeal that the speakers should stick to time as allocated in the program. Our leader, Tito Mboweni, lived for 65 years, and there's no way we will have enough time to speak about him. And therefore, we'll appeal that we speak to time. I was one of the fortunate persons with whom Tito Mboweni left his memo. He gave it to me not to edit, but to give him feedback on what is not clear to a reader. So I was saying to Tumi, the son, that we have to find a way of publishing this memo because it well documents the life and times of the giant we are laying to rest today. And again, it is for this reason that let's stick to the time allocated. If the family will allow for the publication of the memo, we'll have more time to even read about Tito Titus Mboweni, the Duke of Makgobastroof. We will also have memorial services in which many of us, his friends that he grew up with, his teachers, his principals, and many friends, comrades, relatives will still have an opportunity to speak. And therefore, as program directors, we really want to appeal again that let's stick to time. And before we start with our program, we're going to ask Pastor Thomas Mbungana to lead us Ishkongelo with a prayer. Pastor, over to you.
Greetings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Christ Jesus. MC, sticking to my time, allow me to say all protocol observed. We are drawing our inspiration as we open with a word of prayer from this very important article from the Apostolic Faith Mission of South Africa, where Governor Tito Mboweni was dedicated and blessed. It is with great sadness that we receive the news of Mr. Tito Mboweni's passing. We hold his historical connection with the Apostolic Faith Mission of South Africa in high regard. We take comfort in belief that we do not grieve as those who have no hope. That is 1 Thessalonians 4 verse 13. As stated in the book of Psalms 147 verse 3, Aramaic English translation, he heals the brokenhearted and binds up the wounds. While we mourn Mr. Tito Mboweni's passing, we take comfort in knowing that our prayers and thoughts are with you during this difficult family, the beloved Mboweni family. We, with AFM greetings, and on behalf of the AFM National Office, Pastor Selby Kumalo, the General Secretary, Akongela. In 1959, he marched at 16. Mboweni rangwabeti. Xikwembu ube uikatekisa hi n'wana wa jaha. Nambu au kari uhobomula. Miri yikari yikanka. Loko n'wana wa wena afika. Munhu n'wana abutisa leswaku itava n'wana wa njhani. Kambe tintswalo ta wena leti ti cheleke ka yena hi lembe relero ekerekeni ya AFM Bodo. He rose up, Father, to be a great and a giant leader. He's passing away from us. It's sad news. But Lord, we draw our strength and courage from the awesome works which we have seen in him. Hence, we dedicate this program and we say, Father, speak to us, talk to us, inspire us, encourage us with the presence of your Holy Spirit. I pray, precious Lord, that the words of Tito Mboweni, when he says, I know exactly what my task is, when he was given the Reserve Bank, and when he was out of it, after receiving many awards, he said, my greatest fear was to fail. And Lord, we thank you that he did not fail. Even as a finance minister, we have seen you, oh Father. We say, Father, may you inspire and assist us as a country, as a nation, to bring back the times of the Triple T, where the economy was strong, engineered by Tito Mboweni, Trevor Manuel, Thabo Mbeki. Father, we don't pray only for the Triple T time to come back, but we pray for the greater time. South Africa deserves to be the economic powerhouse and to change and shape the world. As we lay to rest this man, I pray that, precious Lord, your greatness will open all the closed doors and the corridors of the great economy of our country. Akukhansa Xikwembu hi katekise evitweni ra matimba ra hosi ya hina Kreste Yesu loyi a nga le ku vuyeni. Amen. Asante sana, Program Director.
Ikensile Mfundisi, please allow me at this stage to acknowledge our dignitaries. Let me start with former President Thabo Mbeki. He's here with us. Allow me to acknowledge the former Deputy President, David Mabuza. Our first female Premier, Dr. Poppy Ramathuba. Let me also acknowledge all the current serving cabinet ministers and deputy ministers and former ministers. I've seen former Minister of Finance, Trevor Manuel. We are indeed sending our leader to his rest when we've also lost former ministers who served South Africa well. Former Minister Pravin Gordhan, former Minister Shepard Mdladlana, who just passed away a few days ago. Let me also acknowledge members of parliament, provincial legislatures, mayors and councillors, the hosi ta hina, mahosi ashu, the kgoshi tsa rona. You are duly acknowledged, and everyone present here. Let me also acknowledge the presence of Archbishop Makgoba, the chairman. We need to change this. Supposed to be the chairperson, so that it's gender neutral, of Nedbank, Dr. Daniel Minele, who served with him in the Reserve Bank. In fact, he recruited him or encouraged him to get involved in the Reserve Bank as a deputy governor. Zweli Nzimavavi, the General Secretary of SAFTU, who also worked with Tito Mboweni in installing the labor regime laws that we have. The Secretary General of the African National Congress, Fikile Vuta Mbalula, is also here. The Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Nomvula Mkwanyane, she's also with us. The Speaker of the National Assembly, Togo Didiza, is also here. We also have an envoy from Rwanda representing President Kagame. Judge President of Limpopo Division of High Court, MG Patudi, is also here with us. May I take this opportunity to ask our Premier, Dr. Poppy Ramathuba, to welcome us. Over to you, Premier. And thereafter, I will hand over to my co-program director, Joe Matebula, to lead us in the subsequent items. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Program Director, our Deputy Minister, Dr. David Masondo, and Tatana Joe Matebula. His Excellency, the President of the Republic, Mr. Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, the former President of the Republic, Mr. Thabo Mbeki, and the former Deputy President, Bo David Mabuza, the Speaker of the National Assembly, Botoko Didiza, Ministers, Deputy Minister, our Judge President in Limpopo, former ministers, MECs, mayors, Mwina Bakamboweni, the leadership and the membership of the ruling party in the province, as today led nationally by the Secretary General and other national officials. Bakabkosi, Ndabezita Mhlaba, Nabandyangu Inkwawu, Babkosi Bjakankuna, Nangwina Bandyangu Wakamboweni, Nirikangwina Hinkwawu, Nwina Bakhandli Benhlonge, Nzamisheweta, Nakutisa Marito Yoshabelela, Kuhuma Kamfumo wa hina wa Xifundzhankulu xa Limpopo. Mr. President, it is rather awkward welcoming people during the times of mourning. Yet it gives me comfort knowing that I stand here to welcome you, to lay to rest an outstanding individual, a citizen of our beautiful province, Limpopo, who used his life to be a torchbearer of our province. So allow me, Program Director, to welcome you all to Limpopo, the place and home not just of Tito Mboweni, but also of the Big Six. The place whose expanse we share proudly with the lion, with the buffalo, with the elephant, with the rhino, the leopard, and the giant baobab. I welcome you to the place where the biggest trees grow upside down, where the maidens dance like pythons, where rhinos are made of gold, where a fish is carved out of wood. I welcome you to the place where warriors king came face to face with their oppressors and fought to lay claim of their land. Let me welcome you to the place where the queens possess rain-making powers. Welcome to Limpopo. This is how Tito Mboweni would have very much liked me to welcome you. Because he was not apologetic about a sense of place, he proudly spoke about Limpopo province. In between telling stories of 100 years of travels in southern, eastern Africa, Europe, and many other places, he set his foot, places of ideological and economic imperatives that became the hallmark of his later life, both as a minister and as a governor. Let me welcome you to the place of this descendant of Gugunyani, Kalanga himself, the Prince of Hosimhlaba, as he fond of saying that, and the son of the greatest expanse of this fruit basket of our province. Mr. President, when Tito called himself the Duke of the Duchy of Makhubasloof on social media, especially on Twitter, now X, we didn't contest and no one will dare contest because we knew that he had made it a point that his 1.5 million followers in the country and across the globe get to know that there is a beautiful province in South Africa called Limpopo, and within Limpopo, there is a beautiful place called Makhubasloof. Makhubasloof was where he found peace and fulfillment, especially now during his retirement. He continued to share its beauty with the world. His passing has resonated deeply, not only within our communities, but also across the globe, of which tributes from local media and international outlets like the Al Jazeera, CNN, and BBC. This widespread attention is a testament to the impact he had on many lives. Since his campaign of Makhuba's Kloof, no one can argue the fact that Limpopo has increased the number of tourists. And I must confess, Mr. President, I recently learned that we are topping in the country in terms of places where people would like to visit, because Tito, on a daily basis, he would not hesitate to share with you that he drinks out of the pure spring waters that flow out of its mountain directly into Ebenezer Dam. Or whilst we are dangling in the valleys of its mountain, either water, canoeing, zipping, or traverse at the upper levels of our indigenous forests and ancient mountain cliffs. Tito spoke of this place and in so many ways invoking the heroic exploits of Kgoshi Makgoba, who fought colonizers until his demise in the beautiful mountains that many of you descended this morning on your way to this place. I'm sure you have seen those mountains that he used to tell you about. Tito Mboweni was beyond a self-appointed tourism ambassador of our province. Today, as a province, when we came up with our slogan and a campaign of #Tourism Thursday, where we urge every mayor, every councillor, every MEC to say on a Thursday, take time and use your data fruitfully and tweet and share the beauty of our province so that tourists can come, and we use tourism in terms of building our economy, where we will be able to create more jobs. Because Tito Mboweni was unashamedly doing that. Therefore, I'm welcoming you to this home of Tito Mboweni. I should hasten to say that the young man that came out of Bodweni, Juliusburg, became an international leader, and even later towards his retirement from active politics, had become a true community representative. I'm saying this because, Mr. President, my personal interaction with Tito Mboweni, those of you who followed him, you might have seen when he says, my favorite MEC. Let me tell you, it did not come cheap. I remember when I was still the health MEC, Tito will just wake up and go and do rounds at Letaba Hospital without telling me. I'll receive a phone call where he says, my favorite MEC. Don't expect a good story to come out of it. He would be saying, I'm in your hospital. But then he was the Minister of Finance. And your hospital, you know how brutal he is. I can't even quote his language. He would be very brutal with the truth, explaining how dirty and filthy it is, how the attitude of our staff is. And I will have to wake up the following morning unannounced, have to go and cancel all my appointments. And when I go there and I do what I usually do and become unpopular on Twitter, Tito will be the one to call me and say, you are on the right path. You are not selling ice cream. You don't have to be loved. You must weep when people are not doing what they are supposed to do. Just recently, before his passing, he visited his old primary school, where he expressed his concern for its condition, even taking time to engage with the learners and share his memories with them. To keep his legacy, I'm calling all of you who are here so that together, because I made that commitment, together with the MEC for Education who is here, we must go and make sure we fix that school in memory of Tito. Tito, as I conclude, one of my interaction with him, which was very funny, was when the community around Makhuba's Kloof, Johannesburg, he had become their councillor, their induna, their chief, their ambulance, everything you can think of. So there was a family who was not happy about the treatment they receive in a hospital. They decided to go and report to Tito. He called me and sent me a number and said, my favorite MEC, call this family. And after calling them, you must solve their problem. When I called them, I realized that they visited actually a private hospital, not a public hospital. I call him and say, former minister, my governor, it is not me this time around, I'm not guilty, it's the private hospitals. Then he asked me, by the way, my MEC, are you the MEC for public health or the MEC for health? Who gives those facilities licenses? Go and fix the problem. That is what Tito has been to me. Therefore, as I welcome you, be moving today and complete and finalize all the proceedings. I'm inviting all of you to celebrate Tito and join me in the lunch. Lunch is on me, and the menu is other than what Tito has taught us to prepare. It's tin fish and pap. Please don't miss that lunch. Thank you.
Rekodibu Mkololo. Akenza. We want to acknowledge the presence of the chairperson of the African National Congress, Gwede Mantashe. We also have amongst our midst the provincial secretary of the ANC, Madaje. We also have the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema. We also have our excellencies from different countries, but in particular where Tito was, it was his home, Lesotho. We have the Minister of Finance and Development, Dr. Mantlanyane, Arbabeteleng Matso, Renali High Commissioner, His Excellency Jafete. We also have Comrade, former Minister Jeff Khadebe. Akenza President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa Rekodibu Amsanda. Ikenza kunyika ndoda leya ka hina ntirhu wo xiximeka wo tani anu ku hi va bela mavoko president ku ri va nyike Tito category 2. Hi khensa na preparatory committee ya ka Mboweni leyi a yi ri le Joni yi lidiwa hi Alto Mboweni, na preparatory committee leyi a yi lidiwa hi Stanley Mboweni. Hala kaya a hi va beleni mavoko ku va yi fambise ntirho lowu kahle. Vandhavesita hinkwavo, ti-foundation na mintlawa hinkwayo na van'wamahungu na xifundhankulu n'wina Mkololo Dr. Phophi Ramathuba ha mi khensa. Hi khensa na African National Congress. Hi khensa na ti-religious leaders ta hina. Hina hi ri ti-program director hi swi twisisa kahle ku ntirho wa hina I ku fambisa ntirho. In my previous life, I've known over time, President, that nobody remembers a program director. Therefore, we are not going to waste your time. So, without wasting time, nitavitana, bakavalandelelana, tatana, Cde Mboweni va ta vika nkosi. Loko va heta ni ta vitana Mr. Colin Coleman lava nga kusuhani na vona va ta va interpretela ku ri va ta xixima mutirhisani na vona Tito Mboweni. Ni nga zangi ni vuya ni ta vitana Princess Mnisi a ta hi nyika musical item. Kusuka kwalaho ni ta tlhela ni vuya hi ya mahlweni. Tatani Mboweni.
Thank you, program directors. Greetings in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Greeting to His Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, former Deputy President David Mabuza, former President Thabo Mbeki, all ministers present, deputy ministers, premiers, dignitaries, governor of the Reserve Bank, traditional leaders, pastors, religious leaders, the leadership of the African National Congress, nationally, provincially, regionally, and all protocol observed. We remember and honor Tito Mboweni. His sudden passing followed a short illness. We lost our beloved brother, father, uncle, colleague, a comrade, and ambassador on the 11th of October 2014. People of South Africa and the world at large know that Tito is no longer with us. Family, vaakatiko, vaaka hosi mhlaba lakankuna. You must know, or comrade Tito Mboweni ufambile. Vaakatiko, Vasasekani village, Bodo village, Greater Zanini community. Tito Titus has gone to be with his parents and siblings. Despite this challenge with illness, he approached life with resilience and unwavering spirit. As we reflect and celebrate his life, let us remember to be inspired by his courage and discipline. Etela iku rula humana mona ekokotiva. Ita kutunzuka imkari hinkwayo. Mboweni waru uma lerikulu leringa ba magama lamakulu hiku uma muchanyi wa malwana kokotiva wa xivungu xo xana hi mahinga wa malwana etlela hi ku rhula malwana kokotiva inkomo.
President Ramaphosa, former President Mbeki, the entire Mboweni family, dignitaries, friends, and fellow South Africans. To help us understand the enormity of the complex, sometimes paradoxical, but brilliant life and mind of Tito Titus Mboweni, known to all of us who loved him simply as Governor 8. After he so suddenly and prematurely left us, I spoke to many who worked closely with, knew, and loved him. Digesting their powerful reflections on the character, life, and legacy of Governor 8, and revisiting the close on 40 years, I had the deep privilege of calling him my great friend, colleague, and brother, and recalling the flood of special memories we shared. A crystal clear picture emerged of the man, the leader, the person. Sharply in focus is a universally acclaimed and loved man who embodied the spirit of non-racialism and social democracy, a spirit South Africa desperately now needs to rediscover and embrace once again to honor his memory. Tito was loved across the board by friends and foe alike. His fierce, brilliant intellect and bubbly presence, captivating larger-than-life personality and great charm, enhanced by his simple beliefs of what was right and wrong, a rare inspirational combination of intellect, discipline, and high principle. The paradox of his apparent obsession with protocol and rules, with his eccentric love for breaking them, his hatred for early mornings, the twinkle in his eye and zest for fun, and all the pleasures in life was evident to all who knew him. He was an honest man who loved life, worked very hard, valued friendship, cared for his family, neighbors, and his pets equally, was always in search of excellence, the truth, and entirely incorruptible, always putting South Africa and good governance first. He sought expert advice, but once Tito had an opinion, trying to get him to change it was a fool's errand. He was stubborn, strong-willed, unapologetic, self-assured, and never suffered fools gladly. So self-assured, he couldn't understand why some people didn't want to taste his home-cooked chicken. He was one to take difficult decisions, courageously always popular, but never populist, speaking truth to power. More than anything, Governor 8 accepted and demonstrated kindness to everyone, embodied non-racialism and inclusivity in all he did. He was thirsty for all South Africans, both black and white, to shine. He loved our kids and parents and treated them as his own. Tito hated racism and xenophobia, and he wanted all South Africans, and indeed Africans across the continent, to have their place in the sun. Whilst a strong proponent of transformation, he railed against excluding anyone based on their language, race, or culture. Tito would quote Nelson Mandela to me, who said, "I detest racialism because I regard it as a barbaric thing, whether it comes from a black man or a white man." Tito valued independent thought, rejecting hero worship or ill-thought-through arguments. As I reflect on his life, and I find deep resonance and meaning in the searing and beautiful text that is the Freedom Charter, a vision he fought for and gave practical effect to in all he did. We, the people of South Africa, it starts, declare for all our country and the world to know that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Tito embraced meritocracy and believed in excellence of execution and implementation. Would Tito not have agreed, as the Freedom Charter promised, that all people shall be entitled to take part in the administration of the country, and that the rights of people shall be the same regardless of race, color, or sex? When Governor 8 defended Afrikaans as a medium of teaching, was he not expressing an argument made in the Freedom Charter that all people shall have equal rights to use their own languages and to develop their own folk culture and customs? Governor 8's legacy as the godfather of South Africa's democratic era economic policy can best be seen in 6 hugely important achievements over his storied career in managing the post-apartheid economy. Firstly, shifting economic policy towards a market-led mixed economy, reflecting global best practice he observed as he traversed the global stage. Then giving birth to the Labour Relations Act, which legislated many of the provisions of the Freedom Charter that called for all to be free to form trade unions, to make wage agreements with their employers, to draw full unemployment benefits, men and women to receive equal pay for equal work, a 40-hour working week, a national minimum wage. Jay Naidu, the former Secretary General of COSATU, told me this week that Tito was simply the right person at the right time to negotiate this nuanced and complex legislation, whilst Jonathan Oppenheimer pointed me to the supreme subtlety in its drafting. Thirdly, eliminating the $25 billion net open forward position and then building $50 billion of foreign currency reserves was central to protecting the value of our currency. Tito's introduction of the inflation targeting policy, bringing down rampant double-digit inflation to the target band, was his signature. Governor Ate always argued inflation was the biggest enemy of the poor and hit them hardest. Introducing the social relief of distress 350 Rand grant as part of the COVID relief package, which he knew, once introduced, would likely become a permanent feature of the social welfare support package for the poorest and most destitute South Africans. And lastly, reimagining the operation and ownership of network industries, which led to the formation of Operation Vulindlela, now the centerpiece of the government's partnership with business, seeking to turn around the performance of energy, transport, and other critical backbone infrastructure, the essential precondition for reigniting economic growth. These achievements are in stark contrast to the young man Ronnie Kasrils recalled when he first met Tito in Lusaka in the ANC underground, telling me of this very bright young man who slept in the safe house when he was part of an underground unit with an AK-47 keeping him company alone at night, looking after the unit's dog, Henry. This young man, who would later become the minister, the award-winning governor, the chairman of companies, chancellor of universities, Governor Ate. As we join the Mboweni family in mourning their devastating and our devastating loss, I can now see our dear departed Bra Tito walking hand in hand, laughing and arguing with OR, my father Max, PG, Jabu Mabuza, our great friends Peter Matlari and Jennifer Oppenheimer from our dinner club he and I started 24 years ago, inspired by Madiba. Governor Ate, alas, now in heaven, lived a huge life. He knows his race has been run and his life's work is incomplete, that he leaves us now, his family, friends, and his beloved people, to ensure his and our dream of a non-racial, prosperous, democratic South Africa is fashioned into a reality for all. But I imagine Madiba slapping the governor approvingly on the back, one of his own, one of his best, handing him an extract of the famous Rudyard Kipling poem as a celebratory welcome gift to heaven. A beaming Tito proudly reading out aloud his favorite passage. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you're a man, my son. Thank you.
Thank you. Ika evitana Princess Mnisi. Loko va heta ita kombela marito ya ku xixima hi mudyondzisiwa Miss Munhlahla. Ita kombela na marito ya ku xixima hi Miss Sindisiwe Koyana. We will also want to acknowledge the presence of the Premier of Mpumalanga, Mr. Mandla Ndlovu. We also want to acknowledge the presence of COSATU, the Deputy General Secretary, Gerald Twala, also the National Chairperson of the South African Communist Party, Dr. Blade Nzimande. Aba, Princess Mnisi, and Jankar.
Inkwenu a stadium a grandstand a even imlenge yachi sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip siyandlula kanjani sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip siyandlula kanjani kobalo we mukuturi wanga washitip siyandlula kanjani kobalo we mukuturi wanga washitip Mukuturi wanga washitip Jehovah ni mula sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip Sitatula kanjani sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip Sitatula kanjani we mukuturi wanga washitip Sitatula kanjani sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip Sitatula kanjani sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip we mukuturi wanga washitip Sitatula kanjani sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip Sitatula kanjani Doniye harikeleni radingala Kota vita harangutane na Goliate Kama Isaiah Nachikwa Mushapani Hey ni Buddha Moses Hey Ekalonda Larotu Sabale Sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip Sabale Sabale we mukuturi wanga washitip What's the band? What's the band? What's the band? Thank you.
Akhenza ababheli maboko. Ms. Sindisiwe also advanced to the stage. Approach.
There couldn't be a more befitting weather to be burying my brother Tito than this one. It's very hot, it's almost humid, and there is no cloud in the sky. This is where my brother Tito grew up. Mark Antony, at the burial of his dear friend Julius Caesar, cautioned fellow Romans, as I am about to do here, today at my brother's funeral, against praising people at their funeral instead of simply burying them and getting on with life. To quote, "The evil that men do," Mark Antony said, "lives after them, while the good is often interred with their bones." In other words, let bygones be bygones. That is easier said than done, because how do we simply bury Tito's good deeds and zest for life with his normal remains? How do we convince ourselves that his grave should be the absolute terminal point of a crusade so rich, so selfless, so exuberant, so cheeky, so witty, sometimes arrogant, and so pioneering? How can we merely congregate here today, perform a few routines, dust ourselves and forget about the fullness of his life? How right here in the corner of our country to which he dedicated his energy, could we all choose to bury everything the son of Africa ever stood for? Is it even conceivable that we are all gathered here and via different media and channels to fulfill nothing more than our ceremonial obligations to our departed friend, brother, father, leader? Please close your eyes for a moment and think back on your best memory of Tito. Then open your eyes again, say goodbyes, and quickly move on with life. I don't know about you, but I'm sure that it is not how I want to process what happened to my brother, my friend, my mentor. I have been duly informed that all of our long speeches will be printed somewhere so that the family can also read them. So I'm going to cut the speech short so that I fit into my time. Tito, Tito exposed us all to the intricate dynamics of South Africa in transition. The covert and overt role players, the opinion makers, the business heavyweights, and many influential stakeholders. We got a chance through him to interact with investors, multinationals, and the characters behind the strategies and decisions of our country. Yet in all our interaction, the most cherished were those with my brother Tito. Tito was trusted by our forebearers in the new democracy, who saw in us a young generation consumed by anger and the trauma of cruel apartheid repression. In him, the founding fathers and mothers of our country and democracy saw a bright young mind with a work ethic they could deploy and a charisma they could depend on to win over the critical mass of intelligentsia to rally behind the post-apartheid 1994 reconstruction agenda. Tito was part of the generation that made it their mandate to lead in uncertain terrains, plotting as they built our reimagined and at the same time our challenging country. After his grueling career, mainly in the public sector, Tito was often ill at ease because he was aging before the ideals for which he had risked his life remained elusive. His contemporaries certainly can identify that anxiety. True economic emancipation, the willingness and ability of South Africans to produce things for themselves, preoccupied Tito's mind. He often said to me, "You are a doer of things, but ideas have now paralyzed you because South Africans don't seem to know what it is that they have to do for themselves." He had played on the global stage and figured out precisely what our country needed to become sustainable through an inclusive economy. However, he was troubled by the lack of capital to turn his vision into reality. He was bothered by how, after all his pioneering work in creating a policy framework and institutional infrastructure to foster equal economic opportunity for the majority black South Africans, remained a face of poverty. His vision for Makhuba's Kloof as a node of agribusiness, as the hub of export and entrepreneurship, stirred in him intense restlessness in the latter days. He was impatient with the persistence of mindset among many of our young people that was keeping them in the stands and as spectators of the game they should be playing. In Tito, we were blessed with a delicate balance of a man who remained the same. How then, I ask again, can we bury the good that Tito stood for? Caesar was killed by conspirators who afterwards tried to convince fellow Romans that his assassination was justified. The conspirators attempted to kill the legacy of Caesar by equating his fervent wish to see a prosperous Rome as ambition. The kind of ambition that had to be clipped and by all means necessary. That is what we do sometimes. And each time, we opt to forget our departed friends, family, colleagues, our leaders. We do not waste the sacrifices made by people like Tito Mboweni. If we bury the good deeds of Tito with his bones today, if we forget his vision, his legacy, if we betray his overdue ideal of economically prosperous Limpopo, of a duly liberated South Africa, and an economically self-reliant Africa, then, in the words of Mark Antony, our judgment has, I quote, fled to brutish beasts, and we have lost our reason. As for me, I would like to say in closing to the family, your son of Limpopo to the family is our son, all of us as South Africans, and we will miss him. And to those who were his comrades in the African National Congress, as I said earlier, the ANC was everything to my brother Tito, and he believed that the ANC will remake itself and become stronger again. To the people of South Africa, we live in one of the most beautiful and potentially prosperous countries in the world. As Tito says, for it to thrive, it requires each one of us to understand how we can play our role to grow our economy. It is no longer about sitting back and waiting for government to give us something. We can begin to think about how to make a place such as this one, Yamakhoba, this one that gave Tito solace, to think about how we play a role to make this country one of the best in the world. Robalaka Kucho, my brother, my mentor, everything that you have shared, I appreciate you. Thank you.
I respectfully observe the protocol that has been outlined already before me and pay respects and condolences to the Mboweni family on behalf of the African Women Chartered Accountants, my family that got to know him, and our friends. In the last few days, numerous articles have been penned to honor this remarkable man, with heartfelt tributes flowing in from all corners of the world. In the weeks ahead, even more words will celebrate his life and legacy. Yet, when the news cycle eventually turns its gaze elsewhere, what will remain is the profound mark he has left on us all. That impact resonates within me, shining through every step of my journey and embodying the character he inspired and influenced so profoundly. It was this man whose grandfather was a World War I veteran under a flag that barely acknowledged his existence, who carried both the weight of his ancestry and the burning desire to see his country transformed. And what a stellar job he did. I can stand before you and speak of his pivotal role as a Minister of Labour in the first democratic government, driving dignity to the labour market, or how he made history as the first black governor of South Africa, as the governor of the Reserve Bank, serving and creating a connection with ordinary citizens to understand the role of the Reserve Bank and bringing transparency that had never been seen before. I can talk about how his tenure as finance minister was marked with integrity and commitment to reform our nation's fiscuses after a challenging decade. Just as I could recount his influential advisory and governance roles in the private sector at the likes of Goldman Sachs, Anglo Gold, etc., and on the think tanks he helped put together to advise on Africa's economic transformation. Yet beyond these impressive titles and accomplishments, it is his profound humanity, loyalty, ability to build and nurture meaningful relationships, and dedication to driving black excellence that truly set him apart. Tasking Mandiza Mboweni and advocate Cde Mboweni to bring talented black professionals together, where he continuously challenged us to national service. He planted a seed in me as a young chartered accountant at the time to be passionate about service in the public sector. As a result, my first public sector board role was on the board of the SA Mint, a subsidiary of the Reserve Bank, where I served on the audit committee. I know people like Cde Mboweni Manasseh served on the main board of the Reserve Bank. It was during this era that he cemented himself in my life as a mentor, whose name still to this day is cited as a reference in my CV and profile. As the first patron of the African Women Chartered Accountants Forum, he inspired us to boldly advocate for transformative power of education for all black women, African, Indian, and colored, believing deeply that an endless pursuit of knowledge is the key to empowerment and professional excellence. He urged us to truly embody our African identity by looking beyond our nation's borders to reach across those artificial lines that divide us to truly create an organization that would embody African unity. This seed has been planted in our sister organizations and collaborations in Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Ghana. He emphasized the utmost discipline in how we presented ourselves as professionals, showing up on time, at our best, reminding us that our true value wasn't in merely establishing another black professional organization, but rather in modeling excellence and maintaining relevance to our members. The organization got to embrace our disciplinarian patron and mentor who never minced his words. He was pleased when the AWCA honored the late Minister Stella Sigcawu as our inaugural AWCA Woman of Substance for her role, like him, Kumkani, in building the cohort of black professionals to lead in the public sector, especially in state-owned entities. Sadly, she passed a few months after the recognition, making that award very special to us. Ms. Montlahlahla, who was here before me, has been a recipient of this award. After the sad moment of 2008 in the ANC. Our other women of substance were Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, Miss Wendy Luhabe, Miss Gloria Sirobe. Advocate, our public protector as well. At that point, we were threatened for the women we were recognizing. I remember my husband encouraging us and even recommended that we seek counsel from Kumkani. As you would expect, he stood right behind us and asked us to speak truth to power. At our last AWCA out to lunch, he challenged us not to only serve in public service, but to roll our sleeves at political branch level as time had come for the younger generation to lead. He went on to quote a Bible verse, which our AWCA administrator this week reminded me was from Isaiah 55, verse 12, and reads as follows: "For you shall go out with joy and be led out with peace. The mountains and hills shall break forth into singing before you, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands." A close quote. I have no doubt that this is the same counsel and guidance he gave to ABASA, APSIP, BMF, and any professional organization. In his memory, let us uphold the values he instilled in us, the values of excellence, transparency, ethical leadership, inclusive economic transformation, and unity across our continent, where we carry ourselves with respect so that the world will treat us with respect. Lala ngokolo kumkani.
I was Belin Mawoko Strakala. Akens. We also have amongst our midst the Commissioner of the South African Revenue Service, Mr. Edward. You know, this surname is a difficult one for me. Kiss Sweater. You will pardon me if I mispronounce it. I have a Belin Maboko Bakon. Ina ikolotaku Shbalo Bakona Winywa Shbalo Namunt. We also have the Governor 10, the son of Limpopo, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Lisicha Khanyago. I have a Belin Mabok. So you can see Limpopo is not only far, hot and dry, it produces the best quality brains. As Belin Mawoko, so Comrade Gwede Mantash. We shall now proceed. He Kombela musical item, Princess Mnisi, Loku Vaheta, Kutata Kushishima Imngana, Dr. Ngwaku Ramatlhodi. Marabenge Seta Allen Mashweni, Kutabana Kushishima, a family representative, Mr. Manias Mboweni. So itachinja program Sinzongo, Mr. Manias Mboweni, Kutasungla Ngwina, Dr. Ngwaku Ramatlhodi. Mara, all of you, we request you to come on stage. Princess Mnisi.
One more time. Así para el
To the program directors of today, Kensa Ngalomi nganyika wona. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Kensa Ngalomi nganyika wona, program director. Kuba hi komisa ku vulavula ka hina hi ta ku all protocol observed. Hi yimela endyangu wa vacanyi, endyangu wa humana. Laha enhena leya ka yi nga tswariwa kona. Tito i tswariwe ebodweni, mi swi twile hi nge repeat, swi hlayahlayiwile hinkwako ni ka ti-social media ni ka media hinkwayo kusuka loko swi ta va swi humelerile. Kambe hi ku komisa hileswaku i jaha leri a ri ri last born eka vana va Nelson na Manpheki Mboweni. Jaha leri kusuka ekusunguleni ra ha ri ritsongo ri tikombe ri ni vutlhari swinene. Tito showed his brilliance while at a very, very young age. Mina loyi ni vulavulaka lana hi nghene swin'we xikolo. He was very intelligent. A swi kota na ku replace a thichara loko thichara ri nga ri kona etlilasini. He distinguished himself from his peers because he liked debate. You know, he liked engaging in serious debates, especially around the issues of history and economy. A hi swi vona loko hi ri na yena xikolweni leswaku munhu loyi u ta ya kule swinene. Ye ya vona evutlhari bya Tito loko a hi balekela la tikweni kwalomu ka ma 1980s. Hi twa hi ti-rumors ku nkarhi lwana a wu fanele u hleva loko vulavula hi munhu loyi a nga famba la tikweni. Swi tshamile nkarhi wo leha hi nga tivi ku ri Tito i kwini, hi nga tivi ku ri Tito u ta vuya. Mara ku ka fike nkarhi laha Tito a nga tlhela vuya, and a vuya se a ri highly sharpened. Tanihi ndyangu hi la ku khensa enhlangano wa ANC loko wu hi tekele jaha ra hina leri humaka kwale makhwatini, mara va fika va ri sharpena, va ri nyike vutlhari, va ri nyika ti-skills hi ndlela ya vurhangeri lebyo hlamarisa swinene. We appreciate the ANC for having contributed towards his leadership, skills, and education and training. When he came back to the country, he was definitely a different person. I kota eku vulavula na yena a hi tsundzuxa mara lexi a hi hlamarisa hi xona loko manje Tito a hi kuminyana something a nga ta ku hlamula xivutiso xexelexo hileswaku Tito never believed in corruption. The word corruption did not exist eka vocabulary ya yena. Tani hi ndyangu hi khensa swinene loko Tito hi nga n'wi xerangi hi ri hexe hi ri va ka Mboweni ntsena kambe hi n'wi xera na tiko hinkwaro ra South Africa na misava hinkwayo. Kutani namuntlha hi yima lana tinhamu ta hina ti govekile hi twa ku vava ku famba ka yena a langutele swo tala ngopfu swinene ka Tito a ri ni ku tshemba leswaku ni tsundzuka ka nkarhi wun'wana u ze a wisa a ta tshama va tlhava n'wi lava futhi mhaka vutlhari lebyi a ri na byona. Se a hi ti byela leswaku a ta va na yena nkarhi wo leha loko swi koteka mfumo a wu ta tlhela wu n'wi vitana a tlhela a ya pfuna ka government. Ndyangu wa Bacanyi wu lahlekeriwile kambe lexi hi tivaka xoho hileswaku Tito va siyile legacy ya vona endyangwini na le South Africa hinkwayo. Hi marito lawa hi ri we humani mona wo humani mona Kokotiva we mbhuri ya Mucanyi u tirhile ntirho wa wena fambu ya wisa famba hi kurhula etlela hi kurhula mbhuri ya Mucanyi enkomo.
Amandla away two. Program directors, His Excellency President of the Republic of South Africa, Comrade Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, His Excellency, former President of the Republic of South Africa, President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President, Excellency David Mabuza, the Speaker of our Parliament, the Mboweni family as led by Joe Mboweni, my children, Comrade Tito's children, the Premier of Limpopo and premiers, other premiers here present, the Judge President of the Limpopo Division of our courts, the Archbishop Makhoba, ministers and deputy ministers, mayors and councillors, members of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, as led by the Secretary General, Comrade Fix Mbalula, Comrade Julius, Commander-in-Chief, the leader of the EFF, and leaders of other political organizations that are here, compatriots, comrades, and friends. Today we lay to rest the mortal remains of my brother, friend, confidant, Comrade Tito Mboweni. At the outset, I must state that whilst I hold a singular honor and privilege to speak on behalf of Tito's friends, views expressed today are mine and mine alone. Amongst Tito's many friends, and as our head, we count His Majesty King Letsie III of Lesotho, who has assigned me to convey his condolences, which I proceed to read. Open quotes. Good morning, Wagu. Please allow me to convey my condolences for the very sad loss of our friend and brother Tito. The news of his demise has hit me very hard, and I think it will take me a long time to recover, close quotes. My response, open quotes. Thank you so much, Your Majesty and my dear brother. I am equally shattered and mortified, close quotes. His response, I am in Europe at the moment, and unfortunately, I'll be here for another 10 days. I may not be there in body when his remains are put to rest, but I will be with you, his family, and the movement in spirit, close quotes. As our king, who chose to be our brother and friend, His Majesty's words represent our collective grief and a sense of utter loss. Tito's day came far too soon. It caught us off guard. We were not ready, and we are not ready. He did not give notice, just escaped, slipped through our fingers, through the door to yonder, and a place of no return. We mourn his demise, and we celebrate his life and the gift that he was to us. His footprints loom large and indelible on the mountains, the valleys, the seas of our land and beyond. For he was truly a unique citizen of the world. The path he paved will forever remain beaten for generations to come. We should let it be and release him. He has run his race and he has kept his faith. In 1978, Tito joined my drama group in a play I had penned and directed named The Stray Bullet, which I had produced under the banner of the University of the North Drama and Arts Association, UNIDRASA in short. UNIDRASA, an organization I had established in 1977 as a platform to conscientize the students for political awareness. I had been a cultural activist in Tembisa, where I matriculated in 1975. And having undergone training in the drama and the arts under the tutelage of Sam Mangwani and the legendary Gibson Kente. In Tembisa, I had witnessed and participated through the marimba artists in the activities of the cultural movement that saw the mass conscientization of the townships throughout the country. This was in the early and mid-1970s. In the Cape Province, we had the Reverend Matrina with his play entitled Give us this day our daily bread, Father. In the Transvaal, we had, amongst others, Gibson Kenter, to whom I've referred earlier, who gave us How Long Must the Black Men Suffer, and Asnamali. In Tembisa, my friend and I, Emmanuel, penned and directed Whom to Blame for the Suffering of the Black Men and Khwara. It is this background that enabled me to establish UNIDRASA and to become the chairman of the Central Cultural Committee of the University of the North. Tito joined a legion of young men and women in the fermenting pot of UNIDRASA. Among those who fell in the struggle, who come from this stable, we count amongst them Festus Mutudi, Ignatius Mtebule. Among those who are still with us, we count Beni Munama, Pinky Fukela, Opa Malema, Petu Seba, Izimolot, and others. Directing the activities of UNIDRASA was an underground organization operating under the name the JCOL that I was privileged to command. The JCOL itself was formed by comrades like Strike Tukwana of Azapo, who left the country in the mid-1970s. The group that replaced the founders comprised of Mwagura Matodi, Ignatius Mtebule, Pinky Fukela, Tau Makunyane, Opa Malema, Patrick Usiba, with Mrs. Khware, the wife of the then rector and principal, as our political mentor and supplier of petrol. At the time, she, Mrs. Khware, was the president of the Black People's Convention. Our job was to conscientize, organize, lead strikes, ban buildings, and pamphleteer. In December 1977, I formally joined MK and NC in Botswana. From then onwards, the JCOL became the underground cell of the NC at TEF, or the University of the North. UNIDRASA became a filter through which we recruited the students into political and military underground. The TEFLOP cell reported directly to Botswana. However, we had contact with Swaziland through Ignatius Mtebule and contact with Lesotho through Thabo Makunyane. Late in 1978, Ephraim Mughali visited TEFLOP on a mission to establish a new student organization at a lower level. Not only did we support him financially, but we went on to recruit him into the ANC. It was at this time that we received instructions to link up with Billy Masehla, Jackie Silivye, Dabungwenya, Alex, and Kosimbata in Johannesburg. Through these cells, the NC directed the formation of COSAS and AZASO, later renamed SASCO, as the NC aligned student organizations. That led the struggle to popularize the Freedom Charter throughout the 1980s. COSAS and AZASO were formed in 1979, a few months apart. Tito was an active and enthusiastic participation in the activities of both these organizations. I guess some water. Someone is drying my throat. I left for exile in Lesotho in 1980, and a few months later, Tito Mboweni, Sheikh Mkhonto, Puletsati, and Desmond Cde followed me to Lesotho. There he joined political classes I was conducting while we were in Maseru. And later, he became a member of the drama I had written and directed at the National University of Lesotho. In 1983, we were both elected to the SRC. He as the Secretary for Communication, I as the President. In 1984, during one of my training visits to Angola, my training was cut short, and I was dispatched to Lusaka, Zambia. When I arrived in Lusaka, I found Tito in the same house, same safe house where we stayed together. We spent a week being debriefed by President Oliver Tambo and his high-level team at the NC headquarters. At the end of the week-long session, we were appointed as co-special presidential envoys to Lesotho, a mission we accomplished with distinction. Comrades and friends, Tito is the godfather of my firstborn child, Stodiani Tluramatodi. Otherwise known as Tapelo. I was part of the delegation that negotiated the dowry of Mamukotana and his former wives. In Makhubaskloof, where we stayed together, he used to look after my garden. Together with Oma, my former wife, we hosted his mother when she came for his graduation to Lesotho. I literally forced him to graduate when he did not want to graduate under the pretext that he did not have a gown. My solution was to hire a gown for him. I taught him how to drive a car in Yeoville, in Johannesburg. In Lesotho, together with Brother Tos, as we called him, Bota, Tubiradebe, Vusipikoli, Sheikh Mkonto, who are all here today, we nursed Tito back to health after he suffered a rare sickness. We did this under the supervision of Father Michael Lapsley, in whose house we stayed. Let me skip some parts of my speech and go to the last portions. Let me say this about Tito. It is now evident that I have known Tito for more than 4 decades. He was a highly principled person who stood up for what he believed in. And if that meant him taking a beating, he was prepared to do so. Twice he walked out of my dramas because he disagreed with me. Twice he returned upon persuasion. Given any task, he would accomplish it and later explain how difficult it was to accomplish it instead of the reverse. He was a simple but arrogant fellow, a village boy who fitted very well in the royal court. He was shabby to the extreme and highly well dressed to fit the occasion. Above all, he loved his country and could be a good friend. Our decades-long friendship bear testimony to this. He died a very unhappy comrade. As we used to spend a lot of time discussing issues facing the movement and our country, in particular, the fate of the National Democratic Revolution. On Saturday, the 22nd of June, 2024, he sent me a quotation from The Tale of Two Cities, which reads thus: and I quote, "It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, and we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct to the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on it being received for good or evil in the superlative degree of comparison only, close quote. This message, comrades and friends, was sent to me as part of the difficult conversations we have been having in recent times. I choose not to quote the date when they have no right of reply. That is why, as I go towards my conclusion, I leave his perspectives to the few words he sent to me. However, I'm at liberty to tell what I told him. My argument was that we are currently faced with a classical situation of the mating of a black spider. Regarding the fate of the National Democratic Revolution, to the uninitiated, the black spider has a peculiar way of mating. In season, a male spider is consumed by an overwhelming desire to mate. He is aware of the fact that he is certainly going to be eaten. In the heat of the moment, nothing matters but the thought of the sweetness that comes with the act. I truly try to understand his reckless behavior, and I conclude, the poor fellow must be saying to himself, we all must die at some point, so I may as well die a happy man. Fortified by all-consuming desire, he marches on to the waiting predator, female spider. On the other hand, the female chooses his fellow out of others and allow him the privilege to access her. In matters of procreation, it is the female that has the final say as to who to mate with, and not the other way around. In this case, even the female spider must have some affection for the chosen one. The strangest thing is that the act of intimacy is concluded when the female is the beloved partner. Her satisfaction results from the killing and eating of the partner she so much loved. Once consumed, he is beyond a point of no return, never to come back again, but satisfied nevertheless. Thank you, program directors. Amanda.
Thanks, the former Premier of Limpopo, which was at some point called Northern Transvaal. Comrade Mwakora Matlodi, thanks very much. We know that you have lived with Tito from Teflop, University of Lesotho in Lusaka, and so on and so on. Thank you very much. We are now going to ask the children to come and pay the tribute. Silo, Tumi, Pule, please come on stage. And whilst you are coming on stage, I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the current team finance led by our finance minister, who worked very well And for a long time, even before he was Minister of Finance with Tito Mboweni, Enoch Kotongwana, our finance minister, is here. He's not alone. The Director General of Treasury, Duncan Pieterse, is also here. And two former DGs, they are also here. Lungisa Fuzile, Dondo Mhachana, they are also here. Dondo will remember, Tito will insist that meetings to prepare a budget must take place in Makgobaskloof. And they will make sure that we see the beauty of Makgobaskloof. He marketed Makgobaskloof very well. To me, when we are here, you let me know. And he was very insisting on language, on English. When the local people where he grew up could not pronounce Titus, because his other name is Titus, they called him Titus, and he refused to use the name Titus. And President Mbeki, in his memo, he liked conceptual precision, Tito. In that memo, he's not so sure how to describe you. He says activist intellectual or intellectual activist. And in trying to describe the mass democratic movement, he says he's had a very intense debate with you on whether you can have a mass democratic movement under repressive conditions. He said, no, there is no way. And maybe those who led the UDF and others may answer this question. And he ends up by saying, this conversation must continue. Unfortunately, it has to continue in his absence. He says he met former President Mbeki in 1985 at an ANC office in London, 28 Penton Street. This is when he was also debating this matter. He started debating this matter on whether you can have a democratic movement under repressive conditions. And very interestingly, he says in that memo, as I was reading his, he says, former President Mbeki was socializing a lot whilst he was leading mass protests, speaking a lot on our behalf as the oppressed people in international platforms. And I said to him, really? President Mbeki is socializing? I can't imagine it. He says, how? What do you think? He's also a human being. So there's a lot in that memo, and he says that former President Mbeki used to wear bell-bottom trousers. So it's a very great memo, which I do think that it should be published. I will persuade to me and everyone that we really have to publish this memo. It's a very great memo, and I hope in your, because I'm advised that President Mbeki will also be writing his remembrance of Tito Mboweni, and this publication will probably come out, this is what I've been told, former President Mbeki, that it will come out next week. So I'm not putting any pressure on deadline for submissions and all that. I'm just conveying what I've been told, and I'm looking forward to that memo, and I'm sure many South Africans will read this together with some of the speeches that we've got to cut short because of time. Let me hand over now to Silo first. You know, to me, you're a dictator. I'm a program director here. Okay, he's saying Silo must start. Silo, I have no powers. So, Silo, go ahead, please.
For the past few evenings, I have found myself sitting outside in the depths of the night, trying to write a speech which perfectly encapsulates the life of my father. But I could never overcome this simple question. How does one write a finite speech about someone whose impact and legacy is timeless? It's like trying to put the ocean in a bottle. You can take a glimpse, but you'll never capture the whole picture. I could stand here and recount his achievements, the milestones he reached, or the many roles he played. Father, husband, friend, but to do so would only scratch the surface. Good afternoon to all protocol observed. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Thank you for being with us here this afternoon. My name is Cde Tito Mboweni, and we are gathered here today to honor and remember my father, a man whose presence filled the lives of so many, and whose spirit will continue to live on in all of us. As I sat there during those evenings, I realized that no speech could ever truly capture his essence. His life was full of love, laughter, wisdom, and quiet strength. And trying to sum that up in a few words feels impossible. But today, I'll do my best to share a small piece of the man we all knew and loved. My father was a man who took life's punches with resilience and humor. He was never one to dwell on the past or be held down by regrets. I think that's one of the greatest lessons he has left us. He believed that life was for living, for laughing, and for forgiving. Not just others, but yourself as well. He taught me that if you're going to make mistakes, make them fully and own up to them with dignity, and even with a bit of a smile. But what I'll miss most about my father isn't just his humor or his resilience, it's the small moments. The way he could listen, really listen, when you needed to talk. The way his presence could fill a room with warmth. He made people feel seen and valued, no matter who they were or what they were going through. He had a way of simplifying life's complexities, reminding us that at the end of the day, all we really have is each other. He also had an incredible way of seeing potential in others, even when they did not see it in themselves. He even believed in himself to be the 5-star chef we all know him to be. He was a man who believed in possibilities, in second chances, and in never giving up. Lessons I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. If you were here right now, I'm sure he would nudge me and say something along the lines of, you know, you mustn't make this too long, okay? But how do you keep it short when talking about someone who meant so much? How do you put a period at the end of a sentence that should go on forever? But still, I will try my best to keep this as short as possible. What I admired most about him, though, was his heart. He was kind to everyone, no matter who they were. He made people feel valued, listened to, and cared for. And that's a rare thing in this world. He taught me that at the end of the day, what matters most is not what you have achieved or what you've accomplished or what you have, but it's how you make people feel. And my dad made us all feel important. My father lived with a sense of quiet pride and defiance. He faced life's challenges with his head held high, never wavering in his beliefs or his love for those around him. He gave so much of himself to us, his time, his energy, and most importantly, his love. He gave so much love to his family, brothers, myself, my mother, and Dumi and Bule's mother. And while he may no longer be with us in body, his spirit remains. His legacy doesn't end here. It lives on in the stories we'll tell, in the laughter he brought us, and in the lessons he passed down. Like one of my father's favorite songs, Kevin Barry, his life will continue to resonate through all of us. As the lyrics say, Kevin Barry gave his life, his young life, for the cause of liberty. So too did my father give his life for what mattered most, his family, his values, and his love. So while today may feel like an ending, it's not really. His spirit is too big, too full of life, to ever truly be gone. He'll live on in every memory, every smile he left behind, and in every one of us who had the privilege of knowing him. So as I come to the end of this tribute, I find myself thinking about the night sky. It's something Dad always loved, a sky full of stars. And now when I look up, I know there's one shining a little brighter, a little closer to me. Among all those stars, I've got my own lucky star, if you will, guiding me as Dad always did, quietly but ever present. And if you'll indulge me, I can't help but connect it to something that brings a smile to my face. You all know how much Dad loved his pilchards, the ones in that unmistakable red tin, whether it was for a quick snack or for a full-on course dish. There was no questioning his devotion. So, in a way, I like to imagine that my lucky star isn't just any star. It's up there shining red and bright like a tin of pilchards against the night sky. Steady, reliable, and always there when you need it. So now, whenever I gaze into the night, I won't just see stars. I'll see a little part of Dad watching over us, still offering guidance, and maybe even chuckling at the thought of being compared to a tin of pilchards. Dad, you've always been my guiding star, and I'll look for you in the night sky, my lucky star. Thank you for everything, for the lessons, the laughs, and the love. You'll always be a part of me, and I'll carry your spirit with me in every day. Keep on giving those life lessons up there, and we'll keep listening down here until we meet again. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So, can we have the music item before we transit to the next item?
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is the last item that we're going to have. And this is a special song for all my parents that are sitting here, the president, all the ministers, and the country as a whole and the continent of Africa. It's the song that I released 1st of January to celebrate me as an African child, and it's called Freedom. I wish I was wearing boots. Forgive me, I'll be doing it in heels. Thank you so much.
Viva Africa, viva!
Come on, guys. Church. My boy, Africa. Get up, African child. Freedom is yours. Freedom is guaranteed. Check. Why are you sitting down?
Freedom is guaranteed. Freedom is guaranteed. Oh, get up, Africa. African child. And the song goes like this. It's our time, it's our season, it's our generation. To the youth, get up, African child. Freedom is yours. This part is very personal. It's our land, it's our mineral, it's our continent. Get up, African child. African child. Freedom is yours. Oh, freedom is guaranteed. It is guaranteed. Oh, get up, African child. Freedom is yours. Come on, guaranteed. Come on, Kabana. Liberation, dedication, education, domination. Let's fight together, together. Make Africa the free flag. Come on, let's fight together, together. Let's fight together, together. Let's fight together, together. Hey, freedom is guaranteed. It is guaranteed. Oh, get up, African child. Freedom is guaranteed. Hey, freedom is guaranteed. It is guaranteed. Oh, get up, African child. Freedom is yours. It's guaranteed. Thank you so much.
Amandla!
Too.
Long live the legacy of Tito Mboweni. Long live. Long live the legacy of Tito Titus Mboweni. Long live. Amandla! Amandla! Ripilele Tito, ripilele! Ianyeli Tito, ianyeli! Richilele Tito, richilele! Amandla! Tito, as you can see, or written in his obituary, he was a reader not only of the contemporary literature, but he was interested in reading classics. Adam Smith, Ricardo, and Karl Marx. And one of the theses that he liked in Marx was human beings make history out of conditions that are not their own making. And as they quote here, one of his most likable, favorite quotes was that even under those conditions, human beings must change those conditions. President Ramaphosa, you've led with Tito Mboweni, not only in his capacity as finance minister. One episode which is very clear in your leadership together with Tito Mboweni and your generation was during the negotiations, which laid a good foundation, constitutional foundation for what Tito Mboweni, as a labor minister, had to do, because he premised the labor reforms, the labor laws that protected workers on the foundation of the Constitution, which our current president, Ramaphosa, led in the negotiations, of course, taking the mandate from the movement as a whole. President Ramaphosa and fellow mourners, if there's any precedent post-1994 president, one of the presidents in the post-1994 who has led South Africa under difficult conditions is President Ramaphosa. His Excellency has led under the conditions of COVID-19, 2021 July unrest, leading the renewal of his party has not been an easy task. Leading under the conditions of Ukraine, Russia conflict has not been easy. Leading under the conditions of the intensification of the oppression and the genocide of the Palestinian people has not been easy. But together with Tito Mboweni, you've led and you continue to lead South Africa under these turbulent, difficult times. Yourself, together with Tito, you've been great pilots in helping South Africa to navigate us under these difficult conditions. To us as program director, as we are going to sit down, we want to say, Tito, the Duke of Makgowaskloof, you left us with big shoes, which the current generation may find them not very stylish, but these shoes that you've left for this generation are too big to fill, and will continue to learn from you. May I, at this juncture, at this moment, ask His Excellency President Cyril Matamela Ramaphosa, and as I do so, may I ask you to rise as we welcome President Cyril Ramaphosa on stage. Ramaphosa, rurata kaofela.
Amandla. Amandla. Long live the spirit of Tito Mboweni, long live. Long live the undying spirit of Tito Mboweni, long live. Amandla. Ayithameni hansi. Program directors, the Mboweni family, his 3 sons, his other relatives, as well as a young Mboweni member who I just gained as a friend. As I came in, a young, good-looking young man of 8 years old, decided that he would like to sit next to me. And his name is Fifi Mboweni. Tito Mboweni is one of his grandsons. And he also asked whether, in my eulogy, whether I would mention his name. Fifi, I've now fulfilled my promise to you by mentioning your name, so everybody knows that you exist. Former President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President David Mabuza, Speaker of our National Assembly, Cde Tito, Premier of our province in Limpopo, Popira Matuba, and the Premier of Mpumalanga, Mandla Ndlovu, Judge President Patudi, the Judge President of Judiciary here in Limpopo, Governor of the Reserve Bank, Lesija Khanyago, Commissioner of South African Reserve Services, Edward Kisvetter, ministers and deputy ministers, former ministers, and former Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank, the leadership of the African National Congress, represented here by the National Chairperson, Cde Mantashe, the Secretary General, Fikile Mbalula, the First Deputy Secretary General, Nomvula Mokonyane, the ANC Provincial Secretary of Limpopo, Vamsanda Bomadaje, religious leaders who are here present, traditional leaders and leaders of various political parties and unions. Julius Malema is also here. I single him out. And bulabula hiye na hiku iwabumune la ya parliament uze abulabula swakahlenyana imina nkarunkwa nkarhi wo tala muyisa loyu u tolovele ku rhuketela vanhu na mina mara nkarhi loyu hayi u vulavule kahle swinene a ni khensa ku ri no president a ku khensa ku ri u tlo fa Comrade Tito Mboweni an official funeral category 2. Arau wara leboga. Lena beke mo leboga. Sello malema. The leadership of the Alliance who are here present and the democratic movement, members of the business community, comrades and friends. We are all gathered here to bid farewell to one of the most illustrious sons of our motherland, South Africa. Our hearts are heavy because of this great loss that we have all suffered. But we are also here to celebrate a life well led, a life that is replete with many lessons that we can learn a lot from. On behalf of the government of the Republic of South Africa and the people of our country, I convey my deepest sympathies and condolences to the family of Tito Mboweni on the loss of their father, their brother, and their uncle, and their grandfather. I convey my sympathies to the leadership and the membership of the African National Congress, a movement that Tito served with integrity in exile during the journey to democracy and beyond. We have lost a respected leader, a friend, a comrade, a teacher, a mentor, and a compatriot. He was known by many names to many different people. Some knew him as Comrade Tito, Uncle Tito, Bra Tito, Governor 8, an erstwhile national breadwinner, unpaid impresario for the Lucky Star brand, the Tin Fish, and also more respectably as the Duke of Makhubasklu. He was larger than life because he led such a big life and touched the lives of so many people. Tito Mboweni fraternized with heads of states and government, such as presidents and prime minister. He was on first-name terms with central bankers from all over the world. He was respected by leading economists, titans of business, labor leaders, and ordinary people in our country. Yet, despite his stature and despite his profile, he never lost the common touch. He had a gift to connect with people. He understood people, and he had a way to make people feel special and make them have a sense that they mattered. Governor 8 could relate to people from all walks of life. He was an empathetic man. He valued character over pedigree, and he was not a cynical person. He looked for the good in each person and usually found it. But at the same time, he was a person who did not suffer fools lightly or easily. Tito taught us that public service is noble and necessary, that one can serve the people of his country with integrity and hold true the important values like faith and family. He strongly believed that it was important to give back to the community and the country in which one lived. He recognized that serving others enriched the servant's soul. To me, he was the shining star that shined brightest in a maze of a dark period in the life of our country, a dark period we called state capture. He had already left public service when I knocked on his door asking him to return to public service as a Minister of Finance. I just said to him, Comrade Tito, your country needs you to do another tour of service. He agonized about giving up the material value he was building for himself and his family, but after a while, he came through for the people of South Africa and agreed to serve as Minister of Finance. That showed me that we were dealing here with a true patriot. Memory and truth are great virtues. The memories that people have shared of Comrade Tito over the last few days tell us much about his personality and the relationships that he formed with them. Some of the finest tributes have come from our nation's journalists. We hear of a senior minister who was always accessible, who pored over every detail in their stories, and who challenged and sparred with them. We remember how he would dramatically bring a potted alu forex plant to his budget speeches to illustrate his approach to fiscal discipline as he was delivering his budget. Through the alu forex plant, he sought to illustrate that, like our country, this plant survives and thrives when times are tough. We continue to admire how he always sought to demystify matters of the economy for our citizens. He insisted that government must communicate with the people and on how the economy decisions that we take impact their lives. We will remember his aversion to a fleshy lifestyle. Tito Mboweni wasn't just incorruptible. He wasn't just an avowed enemy of corruption throughout his life in public office. In time, we will look back at those social media posts of Tito defending his infamous brown shoes that had seen better days before. I remember being photographed with him at my house as he was wearing those brown shoes. I was also wearing almost similar brown shoes. When the wave of criticism descended on his shoes, I immediately packed my shoes away so that I should retire them. I will look at them fondly and remember Tito Mboweni. We may then read what was perhaps the deeper meaning intended in all this, that when you hold public office, when you are entrusted with leadership, you must be of the people, not standing above them, not looking down on them. For Tito, when you hold public office, perceptions matter. Tito's enduring self-deprecation, availability, and humility belied an illustrious career. His remarkable life spans the history of our democratic journey. He was an activist in the struggle against apartheid. He played a formative role in the development of the ANC's economic policy as the ANC prepared to govern in 1994. As the first Minister of Labour, appointed by the father of our democracy, Nelson Mandela, he oversaw the construction of a new labor regime in our country that would reflect the values of our democratic constitution. During his tenure, groundbreaking labor laws were passed. He introduced legislation, as we had, on collective bargaining, the basic conditions of employment, labor relations, health and safety, and employment equity that have served our country well over nearly 3 decades. These laws fundamentally transformed the labor relations landscape in our country and almost completely relegated apartheid labor laws to the dustbin of history. These laws restored dignity to workers of this country that had been denied them for centuries. He then became the first governor, a black governor of the South African Reserve Bank. He oversaw the modernization of our central bank. He introduced inflation targeting and convened the bank's first monetary policy committee meetings. And to keep the citizens of our country abreast on economic policy matters, he introduced a televised monetary policy statement presentation, which Governor Leseja Kganyago continues with to this day. Later on, as Minister of Finance, he undertook one of the most difficult of roles. It requires someone of mettle, of real courage. It requires an ability to take difficult decisions and to withstand extreme pressures. In a country such as ours, it also requires someone with a keen understanding of the imperatives of development, social transformation, and the ability to redress the damage that was caused by the past. All of which must at the same time be matched by pragmatism. He often had to tell his cabinet colleagues that there was no money for their ambitious plans. As the national breadwinner, it was up to Tito to put things plainly. As a country, we are better off for Tito Mboweni's steadfastness and resilience as Minister of Finance. He championed economic transformation just as he championed fiscal discipline and evidence-based policy making. Through his leadership, the National Treasury steered our economic difficult path through an extremely difficult period. He became finance minister when the country was emerging from the era of state capture and as the country had to confront a devastating global pandemic. With him at the helm, the National Treasury set itself on a collaborative course with the rest of government to restore policy and regulatory certainty. This would culminate in the establishment of Operation Vulindlela, a joint initiative of the Presidency and National Treasury to speed up the structural reform process that our country so needed, particularly following the years of state capture. Since it was established, the reforms driven through Operation Vulindlela have made considerable headway towards resolving many challenges in our economy. What many will remember, but perhaps others do not know, is that Tito was instrumental in developing the strategy underpinning the reforms we needed to embark upon in our network industries. His initiatives and insights continue to have a very real and material impact on our economy as well as the lives of ordinary South Africans. It is gratifying that Tito got to see the impact of the hard work that he put in during his lifetime. But I would argue that he left us a bit too early before the reforms that we have embarked upon gain full traction and lead to a growth in our economy, inclusive growth, that should create more jobs, reduce poverty, and eliminate inequality. He got to see how the lives and conditions of workers were improved. He was able to see how safeguarding the independence and the mandate of the South African Reserve Bank works. And he was also able to see how reinforcing good and prudent transformational fiscal policy can be of benefit to our country. On initiating far-reaching structural reforms, the Bureau of Economic Research, which Tito often collaborated with, in Stellenbosch University, has said it is difficult to think of any other economic policymaker who has left such an enduring legacy. Tito Mboweni was particularly popular with the younger generation, and we had two of them speaking here on this platform. Who but Uncle Tito could have a chart-topping rap song titled with his name? Who but the Duke of Makhuba could share tips with 1.5 million followers on the best curry powder to cook a chicken with or fish with and impart economic education at the same time? Botala abahleketa kuri Tito Mboweni loko akomba vanhu kuri Lucky Star ingaswekwa kanjani, abahleketa kuri wa penga. Mara a dyondza vanhu vo tala kuri economy ifamba njhani. Our younger generation, many of his social media followers, have a delightful phrase, understanding the assignment. Loosely deciphered, it means knowing what must be done and doing it well. Comrade Tito and I shared a deep passion which many people may not know about, for trout fly fishing and would spend a considerable amount of time talking about the skill of casting a line on the water to catch a brown trout and compare that to prudent macroeconomic policy management. I'm glad to hear from his sons that he has also taught them how to fly fish. But I kept fearing that on budget day, he would bring a dead trout fish to the National Assembly and talk about it. I'm glad that he never did. To the Mboweni family, you are all having to deal with a raw heartache from his death. But we want you to know that we are all feeling the pain together with you. Tito's departure has left a void in our hearts. We know that your grief of loss is so overwhelming, but I cannot refrain from offering you the consolation that our nation gives when it expresses gratitude in the manner that many of us have expressed our gratitude to what Tito meant to the people of South Africa as he served them diligently. And I do hope that the recognition of the people of South Africa who knew him may assuage the anguish of your bereavement and leave you the memory of the appreciation many who knew him have spoken about, and the solemn pride that must be yours as a family that gave birth and nurtured such an outstanding son of our country. Comrade Tito, you understood the assignment. As we bid farewell, my dear brother, my comrade, my fellow fly fishermen, your legacy as a successful transformation person, from a freedom fighter to a businessman, to a central banker and to a politician, you were a true servant leader. You were deeply admired, and you were dearly loved by the people of this country. You did deliver on what was required of you. You acquitted yourself with dignity and with honor in the ANC, in government and beyond. You depart this world with that dignity, that honor, and that reputation intact. You did not disgrace or betray your movement or the people of this country. You were a credit and an asset to both your movement and your country. You leave at a time when what you started in the form of reforms are gaining traction and are set to catapult our economy to a higher level. You leave at a time when we have set up a government of national unity, a government of national unity that has brought together, in collaboration, 10 political parties that seek to work together to attain the key priorities that you yourself supported. You leave at a time when we will be holding a national dialogue which will bring our people together through their various formations, where they will come together and discuss where our country and our nation should go to. You leave at a time when there is so much promise for the future of our country. And we can say, you, in more ways than one, worked for this moment. You worked and you made sacrifices so that we should get to where we are. You also leave at a time when your movement is being renewed, when we are dealing with the challenges that have dogged our movement for the longest time. What you have done is the most we can hope for the leaders that will follow in your footsteps. And this is the highest we should all aspire to be like Tito. Like Tito, we should strive to be the servant leaders. We should each aspire to do everything that our country asks of us. Tito Mboweni did do what this nation, what this country asked of him, and he did not disappoint. So we say, Comrade Tito Mboweni, farewell. Ufamba kahle mkhonto. Itahle ihlangana siku rin'wani. Rest in eternal peace. Nakhenza.